Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. This is a special edition of Totally Classic where we are recording in the morning. I guess it's not even really that morningish, but it feels very uh, morningish to me, and certainly earlier than I normally engage in um, any really extended conversation. I'm usually at this time of day, I'm still only really talking to my children most days. And that is a little, I think all children have some version of ADHD if they are compared to adults. So being able to reason continually for an extended period of time is going to be a delightful challenge. And I'm going to grow from it.
Wonderful. Yeah, this is a time for me that has been a little wobbly. There was for quite a while I had pushed my work. I have a lot of ability to set my own work schedule, and I had pushed it to 8 a.m. Central. And then at some point, I just decided that was just too early. It just felt like an hour too early. Just
Mhm.
I've wanted a bit more like luxury to have a morning routine and just meditate and just sort of get ready for the day.
Yeah.
So I pushed all my meetings back to 9 a.m. And then it's funny, my body just keeps wanting to wake up earlier and earlier.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. That's cool.
and so now I'm sort of shifting back. But today is, as you know, a special day for me because I finally joined the COVID club.
Yay.
Yay.
And now they say congratulations.
And I even brought, for those, um, if we ever publish these videos,
Oh, yeah.
my rapid test result. No, it's not even a rapid test. It's a home test. It's a
Oh,
stick.
yeah. Home test. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Do
mean,
you
it was
pee?
rapid.
Do you spit on it? Do you pee on it? I have never taken one, so I don't know what you do with a stick test.
3 drops.
Of
It's got like a little vial,
yeah.
and they kind of all seem to work in some way where you basically, swab the heck out of your nose
Oh, okay.
and then, gather a sample, and then you mix that with some fancy chemical that I guess is it an agent or a reagent? Or
Mm.
I don't even know. Chemistry was a long time ago. And then that, um, then you, yeah, you put those together in the vial. And actually, at first, you guys have to remember to like squeeze when you pull the swab out, and just squeeze it out so you're getting all the goo from your nose.
All the mucus.
And then, yeah, then you just squeeze 3 drops of that into this little stick, and
Oh, okay.
somehow that then reacts with what's on this paper. It's magic, I guess. I don't know how else they could have done it, but cast a spell, and then
I guess so. Dark magic.
any
Well, I know.
sufficiently advanced
Yeah.
technology is indistinguishable from magic.
That is the sort of that's how the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has started to premise almost all magic in their reckoning. Not all of it, but certainly like in Asgard and like Thor's whole thing. They're like, oh, the magic you do. And they were like, well, it's just advanced technology. And I was like, what? I mean, me as my inner child and my present child, I was like, that's terrible. That's like at the end of the thing. And they're like, it was really all a dream. Here's how we did it. It's like when maybe this is gonna offend some certain, maybe I guess the millennials. It was like when George Lucas went and did the sequels and started explaining like midichlorians and how the force works. It was like, what? No, nobody needs that. Now, of course, if I was reading it in book form, I'd be like, well, it's really fascinating, and actually, because since it's based on midichlorians in your blood that are detectable, that's why Vader was, Anakin was destined to perhaps be the most powerful Jedi of all time, and yet when he lost limbs and became Vader, he'd lost much of his like ability to manipulate force because he'd literally lost body mass, which would have contained many of those midichlorians. And so, okay, obviously, some part of me likes it.
But did he lose power?
I mean, he would have had to have, right? I mean, now this is the problem. I haven't seen the Obi-Wan show.
I just finished it.
Okay, I watched the first two and I was like, I don't think I'm watching the rest of this. I think this is terrible. But now that it's finished, I'm probably going to go back and watch them all. But the first two episodes I thought were straight up booty, and I was like, I cannot believe this. And I was so excited because there's an actress in there named Moses, which is my daughter's name. And I'd really liked her in The Queen's Gambit, and I think I actually know somebody who trained her or whatever for that role. And I was super excited, and I thought she was terrible. And then she got kind of like all this like racist stuff online, which really bummed me out. And that the Star Wars fandom constantly irritates me. And then I was so mad because I was like, oh, now these racist people attacked her. Like it said the problem was her blackness. And I was like, no, her blackness wasn't the problem. Her blandness, the fact that she didn't make interesting decisions as an actress. And now that you've introduced race, we can't criticize her just performance. And the fact that I think she, as many actors, and who knows, it probably would have happened to me too if I was put in those positions. They get overwhelmed by the moment. This happened in the prequels too with Star Wars. They get overwhelmed and they don't really know how to inhabit a space of that sort of grandeur and ridiculousness. And then if they don't have a good director, then the director's not going to help them, which is why even like Natalie Portman was terrible in the prequels or whatever, and she's a great actress. So yeah, just stiff, man, just stiff and weird. And there's no reason. Have fun, man. This is why Harrison Ford is still like he's the guy from the original Star Wars because he was having some fun, just like lounging about, making some interesting decisions, being a little weird, a little offbeat. I was like, guys, why not make this a star-making turn? I never quite understand. And I guess I do understand. It's the thing of just like get in where you fit in and the tribalistic impulse, I suppose, as we've discussed on here. Oh my gosh, maybe I am ready to talk. That's too much already. You got me stuck in Star Wars, and we'll never talk about today's. I'm not even like that big of a Star Wars head, but if you get me talking on it, I obviously it's too important to me. Today's topic is COVID real? I think we just did that was like how most podcasts go. Talk about something that's completely irrelevant and then go, so today's guest is.
Is it though? There's a couple funny things about that. One is, I, even though we may never post these videos, I, pick a t-shirt for our show.
Yeah.
And I literally like had my Star Wars t-shirt in my hand.
Yeah.
And then I switched to my East Fairchild t-shirt from the reunion. This is the dorm that we met in.
That's amazing. Someone made it.
Yeah, I think Anna Siri.
Classic Anna Siri.
All of that. Thank you, Anna Siri. And that it does seem appropriate actually to talk about midichlorians because we're talking about stuff in blood.
Yeah, and like in the realm of knowable and mysterious, since neither of us are virologists.
And technology, because I don't even know how many of these I think I have photos of all of them. I'm weird like that. But it was kind of a moment, right? Because it's like, I don't know, this is the closest I'll ever have to like a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
But it's like waiting for that second line. It's first line is control, and it's like the second line is
okay.
And it says like, oh, it might be really faint or it might be like really dark. And mine was like, it's like darker than the control line. It's like, no, you definitely.
It's in there, buddy.
But it could all be a conspiracy. This could be reacting to, I don't know, me having a bad day or something.
Well, that's the premise. Like it's a faith leap, isn't it? I mean, anytime we do a test like that, you're like, I guess this is how it's done. I don't know. You don't know. Most people who pee on a pregnancy test stick don't know how it works. They just go, well, I guess it's a thing. But then even then, everyone I know who's ever gotten pregnant then you eventually go to like an OB/GYN because you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You have to like kind of climb the levels of like validation for the thing. And then you kind of really, for most people, it doesn't really feel real until it's embodied. And this is why in cultures past, the quickening was seen as, it was like a theory of like when life entered the body, was when the first time you felt a child move within you. And you're like, okay, now it's real. Nowadays, of course, we have ultrasounds. So it happens so much sooner that you can go and you're like, okay, now I can see it. Now it's real. The 4 other steps of validation. So for you, like if you didn't feel, this is one of the weird things about COVID. If you didn't feel COVID, you'd be like, is this real? Do I really have it? Do I have a thing?
Or to what extent, does knowing I have it make me feel worse?
Oh, absolutely. Since the placebo effect and the nocebo effect are both real. Who who knows?
By the way, that you just said feel real.
Indeed. I try to drop that in.
I appreciate that. And the subversive, like, longer term goal there is to have a global drinking game where every time somebody says that, we have to
Oh, I
take,
love that.
in my case, kombucha shots.
I think that would be what the drinking game for Feel Real would be. Yeah. It would be like a yerba mate, a matcha, you know what I mean? Like a kind of a little more like an adaptogenic tea, a chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, something that costs like $15 to buy, like a single beverage of. But you have COVID. Is COVID real? Is the question. And this is sparked, as you can tell by the fact that there's a test in the room, by a real life circumstance. So this is a last minute pivot into, hey, let's interrogate this, especially because you are in the midst of it. You are literally embodying the COVID sensation.
I am. So I, Andy Swindler, have COVID. And you,
Brendan McNamara, don't have COVID. As far as I know, I don't know. I could have it right now. You know what? That if we had advance time, I could have gone and got one of those tests. Although those tests cost money, which is
no, I'm still burning the free ones. Have you never gotten the free ones?
No, I never got free ones.
Our lovely government of the United States of America has sent me some free tests.
Oh, that was sweet of them. I know, remember, but they said it was like a year and a half into the pandemic. They were like,
yeah,
which is hilarious. They've been free. They've been free around the world, like literally sent with, whatever care packages or in countries around the world. I remember seeing, I think Paraguay or something. They were like, I watched an unboxing of what the government sent to literally everybody.
Well, I think it came with a personal card from Uncle Joe. So I think it took a while for him to write.
It's like when those first it's like when those first stimulus checks went out that Trump was like, my name's got to be on them. People have to know. People have to know that he was like, Uncle Donnie sent you this loot. Don't forget when it comes voting time. So weird.
Voting for your favorite uncle.
Yeah, exactly. Here's some tests. Here's some tests to spit on. Uncle Joe loves you.
So let's see, what's the timeline here? So I was at Lakes of Fire, regional Burning Man event over in Michigan. Gratefully to have that come back and be there. And after 3 years, all that was shut down during the pandemic. And I don't know how much we've actually talked about the fact that you introduced me to Burning Man in 2008. So that could be a fun road to wander down a little bit. It was your third burn, your first time organizing a camp, as I recall.
That would be, what was it? My Hope and Fear was my first year, which is either 2006 or 7. So that was my third then. Yeah. I always forget which years I went. I have a patch, thank goodness, that I got at the first one. So I literally can go pick up my jacket and be like, 2006. I always think it's 2007. So I was like, 2008. I was like, no, I don't think my second. Yeah, I only went 3 years though. In some ways I felt like, I wanted to pretty much as soon as I went, I was like, Andy's got to come to this because I love you and you're one of my best friends in the world. And I was like, having gone there, I was like, I want to share this experience. And so by year 3, I was like, okay, now I'm like actually got to the graduated to organizing and then got to bring you along. And then once you came, I was like, my work year is done.
I also thought organizing kind of got the best of you. I think that's
it was exhausting. Well, and it's expensive. And I was very, very broke for the next probably 3 or 4 years. So it just wasn't financially tenable.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming regional events are cheaper. Oh
yeah. It's cheaper, easier. I don't know. I tell people if I had all the time and money in the world, sure, the big burn there's nothing like it. But, and I don't know, it's been 10 years, or 11 years. So I don't know, it's different, I'm sure. But the regional is wonderful. It's like 2,000 people around the lake, and it's enough people to have some very cool camps, including ours. And some cool art and cool people and cool art cars, including like a 20-foot tall unicorn. And also small enough and close enough to be easier.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely, I believe. There's one thing that I have held in my very limited research about COVID is that outdoor transmission is very unlikely.
Yeah.
And this is a camping event, fundamentally. The only time I was in something like an indoor was I was in a giant Aladdin genie lamp for an hour or two, getting some wishes taken care of, and as you do. And it seems a little unlikely that the 3 people I encountered in that lamp would have given me COVID versus the 12 hours I just spent in the Austin airport a couple weeks ago. So I don't know. But what I do know is that when I got back, I was super fatigued, which is not that weird. Especially the last night, I didn't sleep a whole lot, and it wasn't the best.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it was a really short burn. I was only there a couple days, so it's like I'm gonna soak it in. And so, but I think it's more likely. I hold that maybe one of the reasons, I'm sure I've been exposed to it in the last few years, COVID. But I keep myself reasonably healthy, and I don't have any immunocompromisation. Is that a word? So it's also highly possible that I had reduced my immune system by lack of sleep.
Sure.
Things like that. So I don't know. Who knows? It is what it is, and this is how any virus may happen, and any sickness may happen. And my symptoms. So it was. I just remember being really totally exhausted. I think it was like Monday night. I went to bed kind of early, and then Tuesday I should have gone to bed earlier, but I stayed up doing something really important, like watching Stranger Things. And then last night I had to finish Obi-Wan Kenobi, as we were just talking about, which I actually enjoyed. I think I don't have the burden, I guess, of critiquing cinema at a technical level like you do. In many ways that's beautiful, and in some ways I imagine it's a burden. I was so taken with young Leia that sort of overcame for me. And then I imagined, like, oh my God, like from like a feminist standpoint, like we've spent the last 40 years following Luke's story. Like what would it be like to just follow Leia's story?
Yeah. Well, and in many ways Leia's story is far more interesting in the we saw this in the last 3 movies, where it was like, I think people were highlighting this. They were saying all the princesses we grew up with are now generals. And it was her, obviously, because she became like the leader general. And when we first introduced, she was a princess. By the time we're in Return of the Jedi, she was a slave. Now, granted, she's laser blasting people in the face later in the movie or whatever. So, well, not in the face, it's Star Wars, but and then likewise with Buttercup from Princess Bride was then, was now the general of the Amazons in Wonder Woman. And so, yeah, in many ways, it was like the journey of that Leia character is really quite a bit more epic. You know what I mean? There's Luke's is sort of a humble and simple one, where he's like, whatever, adoptee to farm boy to fighter pilots, and then Jedi master, and then that's it. He doesn't really change after that. You know what I mean? He just adds disillusioned Jedi master, and then re-illusioned, I guess. And then, literally illusioned. Oh, whoa.
Grumpy. It was a grumpy period.
Yeah.
So anywho, aside from my late night health habits, I taking reasonably good care of myself this week. And I definitely noticed it on Tuesday, and it was the brain fog. It was just the like, and I was in meetings all day, and I was kind of hanging in there, but I was actually really annoyed with myself, because I thought, oh man, am I too old to party at Lakes of Fire?
Right, sure.
Like I thought that was like a lingering fact that was like messing with me, or like I just need to schedule more days off after or something. And I I assume, I mean, I really think those were COVID symptoms I was having Tuesday. I finally tested on Wednesday, and I was working on Wednesday too. And at that, it was really mostly fatigue. And then let's look at my timeline. What's today, Friday? And then it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I woke up and it was just like headache, body ache. But really, I didn't have a fever. I checked my temperature several times. I didn't have a fever. Like a cough kind of emerged. A dry cough sort of emerged throughout the day yesterday. I still have it a little. I muted earlier, but maybe I'll cough on camera so you can get the full effect. And then a little runny nose. What's the other? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. So I'm calling it COVID light, as these things go. And so I'm going to go ahead and answer the question. I think COVID is real.
Yeah. Well, the way you're describing it actually gets to the crux of what I think the real question is of when is COVID real? I know I was just saying to you before we started recording, I think about 2 people in the past 2.5 years who would have said COVID's not real, but there are also people who say like viruses essentially aren't really real. Any virus that hasn't been, what's the word, like fully chained out, like codified, then they're like, I don't believe it yet until I've seen, show me it. Until you can isolate the virus, stop saying that you don't know anything. Though there's a few of those folks who were like, and I don't even know, I don't know how to read virus coding if it was laid out in front of me in all the ADAGC or whatever the DNA of a virus. I have no idea. So other than that, though, I think the real question when people say is COVID real, like we were saying, it's mostly clickbait. I heard many people complain that there's people out there saying COVID's not real. I was like, I didn't know any of those people at the time. And man, I've gone down so many of the rabbit trails one can go in online, and I've not bumped into those people. So I don't really know. I think there was a lot of straw manning going on. However, with talking about your symptoms, this is what most people are talking about when they're saying COVID's not real. They mean COVID, and I'm putting quotes around COVID, as in this pandemic, as in this panic-demic is not real. So COVID, the emergency, is not real. It is a manufactured phenomenon. And I think that's, I would agree and disagree with elements of that, but that's a completely reasonable argument. We absolutely made things worse by how we reacted. So the COVID that we responded to as a species, really, most of us, like, or in terms of organized government and whatnot, does not exist because we cause more harm than good. So obviously the thing we responded to, we freaked out like we were being like shot at or whatever. We freaked out like from the early footage of people like coming out of China, which again, to this moment, we don't know if it was real or not, but like people were like dead in the street. So people responded as though, oh no, we have the Black Plague. People are going to be dying in the street. What the reality is, it always was, is most people at most experience symptoms like what you're talking about. I mean, it's, again, this is like a virus that when infected, this is 0.008% of people die who are under 20. You really only get into the danger zone. You're like 70 or 80 when you're in the danger zone for flipping everything. So in some ways, this is just it is a novel phenomenon of coronavirus. So it absolutely exists. The phenomenon around it is not genuine in terms of like how we responded and weaponized it and created chaos and sowed harm or whatever. So you having the symptoms you have, like most people, are asymptomatic. So the typical COVID would be like what I had, which is I never knew I had COVID, and I only found out that I'd had COVID previously by getting an antibody test because I was like, well, I wonder if I ever had it. Check that out. So it's interesting, right? So, I mean, but then when people are like, oh, and it's funny, well, because you're a vaccine, we've talked about this on the show. So you're a vaccinated and boosted individual. And there's this joke online for people who are like still in the COVID Twitter world where public figures get COVID because everybody gets COVID and they say, well, thanks to being because vaccinated, it's mild. My symptoms are mild. And you sort of like let public figures say they got it, and they always thank the vaccine, which hopefully they get paid like every time they do that, just like whatever, like you do on YouTube advertising or whatever. But th- that's this is the realm of like, oh, we're back into insane world or whatever, because it may or may not have anything to do with your response. You literally don't know. Like no one does. And so it's funny to be like, well, because of that, you're like, well, no, because COVID is mild, and Omicron specifically is mild. Like you might actually be experiencing like a actually quite extreme version of COVID, but because it's not so bad, as we assign the how you feel to how people responded to COVID, it does seem like a lighter version. But the contention, and certainly my contention, is it's always been that light, like forever. I mean, not literally, because Alpha was a more virulent variant than Omicron. So I don't mean that to the ultimate literalism, but the COVID you're experiencing is pretty much the COVID most people experienced for 2 years.
Well, I personally would like to thank our sponsor, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals,
Yes.
for reducing my chances of death and hardship.
Yeah.
And I really hope they send us lots of money.
Oh, feel free to fund us. I'll take their blood money. I don't care.
We're good. Actually, that's a loop back in a way. There's a couple things I wanted to mention about Lakes of Fire that relate to our discussions.
Yeah.
The one is they had really hardcore COVID requirements. Like you either had to have proof of vaccination, full proof.
Yeah.
Like if you took one of the double shots and you only had one shot on a card, like they wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Or a rapid test within the last 12 hours, which I've maybe always, or at least for a long time, held that testing is far more like useful than a proof of a vaccination.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it was messed up because one of the people in my group, a couple of my friends flew in from Florida. One of them, I at least knew enough. The gate rules at Burning Man in general are really strict, right? And there's a lot I've learned since then about building sturdy boundaries. Priya Parker even says, to be inclusive, you have to be somewhat exclusive, like to build a safe container. So I was thinking, it's fascinating having a break and then coming back with everything I've been doing and learning and studying in the last several years. I was like, oh, this is a really sturdy boundary they're making here in lots of ways. And it's like no firearms, fireworks, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a ticketed event. No, I still have my respect.
Oh, yeah.
So that I thought was interesting, that they made that decision.
Yeah,
and then,
which is
and then we had to drive all over Chicago finding my friend a rapid test because he didn't have the documentation.
Oh, gotcha.
Which was, you do what you do, but it was unfortunate. And the whole time I was just like thinking, like why?
Yeah, well,
an outdoor event.
Yeah, well, and why? Because it's a burning event, right? And one of the principles of Burning Man is radical inclusivity.
Right.
And that would be radical exclusivity for no reason. You know what I mean? Because that's a discriminatory policy. Like I was just looking at Weird Al tickets. He's coming to Raleigh, and I was super excited because I've never seen him in concert. And then his tour specifically has disproportionate requirements for vaccinated and unvaccinated people, which is, we've already discussed in this program, is not rational based, it's not evidence based, it's not science based, it's ideological. So it's a religious, essentially it's religious. It's a religious exclusion. So having a religious exclusion at a Burning Man event is that's mind blowing to me. It's astonishing, especially now we're living where we are right now. Burner is the man who made the 2-part film, The Plandemic. So the Burner world is chock-a-block with people who are the closest you're going to find to COVID isn't real. Almost all the online activists I know, they're either all Christians or New Age burners. That's literally, that, of course, that speaks also who I know and hang out with or whatever. And there's plenty of people who are just atheistic scientists or whatever, but certainly people in my purview are all burners who are what are we doing? Why are we dividing? Why are we othering? So that's an explicit othering tactic, And so I wrote Weird Al's, I don't know, it probably just went into the E void, but I was just like, now that whenever I see that policy, I'm always like, I just share all the information to be like, this is discriminatory. And it's been discriminatory for 2 years, like a year and a half, 2 years. So it's not even like it's new. And again, since Omicron has negative efficacy and natural immunity has beat vaccination for always, literally for 2 years, the fact that that's just like you have to go buy especially a private corporation's for-profit product in order to have special privileges, or you have to go buy another product that you spit on or whatever. But at least the testing makes sense. If you just made everyone test, it wouldn't be discriminatory. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be unequally discriminatory. So
and it'd be far more useful.
And at least you have some sense of like whether it was there or not. Now, of course, that also gets into, again, is COVID real? Yes, COVID is real. Is COVID avoidable? Is maybe even like a secondary question. And no, it isn't. Like we've known it's going to be an endemic virus since at least June or July of 2020. And so that means literally everyone's going to get it. And now because of vaccination, especially with Omicron, people are getting it multiple times, like 3 or 4 times a year or whatever. So then you're like, yeah, we're going to get it. Everyone's going to get it. It is not avoidable. It will be. Oh, actually, wait, is that a question? That's a question too. Had you had COVID previously? Or do you know, did you ever have your like antibodies tested or whatever? You haven't tested positive previously, but did you ever try to find out whether you had it?
Well, I'm thinking, one thing about it is I can't see it.
Yes.
So it's probably not real.
Yeah.
So, these are all secondary signs.
Yeah, sure.
So I've given blood twice during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's got my like 1 gallon pin. I'm so proud.
Nice.
I'm like, gallon, that's like gross, gallon of blood.
I know. I don't want to picture that.
I'm picturing it like in a milk jug.
Yep.
So, and they test for antibodies. And so
Okay.
Both times I didn't have them. But it was a minute ago. Actually, yeah, that's funny. I think both times I gave blood were in 2020.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, I guess I've gotten a little lazy about giving blood. So it's hard to say. That's a long time. That's a long stretch of time. That's like a full year and a half probably, but I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because we know quite a bit more about this now, but we knew about this in 2020 as well, that like anywhere from 20 to 50% of the population had innate immunity. Only recently, in the past like 4 months, the headlines have been like, scientists are fascinated as to why this could be. You're like, shouldn't that have been like, have you never seen a movie? You find who's immune and they become literally there's movies about in viral pandemics or whatever, like where someone is immune and that person literally gets chased by every single other character in the movie because they're trying to like analyze them. No, for us, no, we're going to wait 2 years, then we're going to talk about it. But since you hadn't had it, then it's like, it's fascinating to be like, for anyone, am I one of those people? Am I one of the 20 to 50%? If you take the maximal view of it, like it's a coin flip as to whether you are or not. You're like, what if I just never got it? My dad has never tested positive for COVID, has tested tons of times. He works in production where you have to like test every flipping day of a shoot. He's literally he's made out with someone who had COVID, his wife and his daughter. He was taking care of both of them in the house, never got it. Literally everyone around him got it. So I'm assuming he had pre-existing immunity. People speculate, from other coronaviruses or the common cold is a coronavirus. So it could be that. No one really knows because again, people haven't spent time researching it very much because I think it would just be much harder to monetize. But yeah, so I guess you're not the invulnerable sort.
And I really was beginning to think maybe I was, because I have been, actually, so this could be a good segue. Let's say I've been, reasonably careful, but increasingly less careful, just in terms of being involved with life. And I do a lot of volunteer work. And like I said, like, what was it, 3 weeks ago, sitting in the Austin airport for 12 hours because of delayed flights. I'm like, I was saying after that, I'm like, oh, I am guaranteed to have been. There's no way that I was not exposed to COVID sitting in an airport.
Right.
Like it's just, in my opinion, my scientific opinion.
Yeah.
And
The
so it
only
was
way,
funny.
yeah, yeah. The only way not to is just to stay away from people.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, after that, I was thinking, gee, if I didn't get it here, I think I'm good to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, like I don't exactly know how long it stays in the body or whatever. Like maybe I did, maybe it did enter me, and my immune system was fighting it off until I took a dive. I don't know. I have no idea. We will never know these things.
No. Yeah. No.
Until somebody invents time travel.
Yeah. Unless you're part of like a study, then they can kind of like pinpoint I mean, South Korea did really well in terms of early on in the pandemic when appearing to have figured out a way to control. They did really exhaustive contact tracing, so they could. They were it's a massively surveilled society. And then everyone has cell phones, so then you can like digitally track. And they actually did a great job in the first, especially in 2020. So like if someone got COVID, like they would flipping find out like who gave it to you and who else that person was around. And like, so in some way it is possible, but holy cow, that's an operation. Yeah. For most people, you just are never going to know. You can kind of guess at it.
What happened to some of those early like isolated, like New Zealand, Korea? Because I still hear people kind of commenting back on that, like, oh, it like those are examples of like we could have stopped this, we could have prevented this. Like,
yeah, well, you can if you change society forever. That was really always the thing. But eventually you can't change society forever in the ways that they attempted to do. So then once people get around people, everyone's going to get it. So there's no, Hong Kong did really well early on, South Korea as well. And then pretty much within somewhere the next year and a half, then became like the most infected places on the planet. So all they did was delay. This is the same thing with lockdowns or anything. All it does is delay what's going to happen. And in many cases, as with lockdown, those sorts of things, it makes other things worse because people are supposed to be around people for viral reasons, for intestinal biome reasons, for energetic reasons. Like people need people with very, very rare exceptions. I think there are some people who do thrive in isolation, but I think that's statistically none, honestly, of people who truly thrive without others.
So, one thing I was observing in the last day or two that we talked about are very different research methodologies. And so I'm maybe you could call it like a social learner.
Yeah.
I'm like texting people that I think might have a clue, like including you, who do more research than me. I'm like, so I got it. Like, have you heard anything? Like, what's the thing? And then eventually, I'm talking to my parents. I'm like, have you called your doctor? I'm like, well, no. I'm just like, what would my doctor know about this?
Yeah.
Is this like a generational thing? And I finally called, and I was kind of validated because it was like the nurse or receptionist was like, oh, he's seeing patients. So, what's going on? I'm like, well, I have COVID. I'm just curious if you have any advice for how to.
Yeah.
I don't know if she was annoyed, but maybe. But she was just kind of like, yeah, there's no cure.
Yeah.
Just kind of treat it like a cold, quarantine for 5 days and fluids.
Yeah.
And then she did say, if you can't breathe, go to the emergency room. So
Yes.
There is that urgent reality.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Which I think was what made all the headlines in the early days. And maybe I don't know. Like we do. It seems like we all seem to agree, including you, that Omicron is there's a less likelihood of the extreme.
Yeah.
Which in the context of personifying an invisible virus, I think, it wouldn't want to kill its host. So
that's sort of part of that. Yeah. That's kind of the narrative version of what's going on. Viruses don't really care. I think we have the tendency to anthropomorphize everything. So we're like, well, that just wouldn't be practical. And you're like, a virus doesn't care. A virus is really just trying to like rapidly reproduce, essentially. You know what I mean? Trying to like find a place to and just more and just more and more and more and more and more. And then if
you know they don't care.
as far as sorry, we have no, I don't know for no by any certainty. I have no idea. They could be the most emotionally evolved organisms on the planet. Who knows?
So I'm feeling like some tinges in my body. Like it's like
yeah. It's trying to teach. It's trying to yeah. They're trying to grow enough to teach us something. Well, that's funny. So this is the COVID is not real thing. Is her response? It's pretty much like a cold. Stay home for 5 days. If you can't breathe, go to the hospital. This is the COVID is not real. People have been saying for 2 years. For almost everybody, it's like a bad cold. If you're sick, stay home. If you can't breathe, try to do something about it. Maybe go to someone who might be able to help you. Go to a hospital I think hospitals are pretty decent for emergency situations. I don't know how they're very good for much else, but that seems to be, that's their bailiwick. And then COVID is, and then again, those people are like, what, you're saying it's not real? No, we're saying what everyone is saying now 2 years later, when things haven't fundamentally changed other than that most of the population has gotten COVID is the most relevant thing. And then a mass vaccination happened, which we still don't really know if, I mean, at this point, it's pretty much clear that it's either a null sort of hypothesis, like it kind of didn't do anything really functionally in terms of like socially, or it might have made things slightly worse. At least the mRNA ones tend towards, they probably made things worse than helped, you know. There are adenovirus vaccines. I just don't know anybody who got those ones. In the US or whatever. They just weren't popular. They weren't hip. They didn't have the branding, you know, it wasn't the Gucci, the Balenciaga. So that's the funny, I mean, that's been the funny, or I told you so thing. I think for the COVID isn't real accused crowd, is that lady said what everyone in that collective has been saying for 2 years. And so it's interesting. In some ways, it's an I told you so. And then the people who accuse people of saying COVID wasn't real are saying, no, everything's different now. Which is it. And then that becomes basically it's a chance to have I told you so becomes a chance to have an entirely new argument and to keep hating each other. But I'm glad you had COVID, because it's just good to have. I've congratulated pretty much everyone I know who got COVID. That has been my first response to everyone. Yeah, because it's good. You got to get it over with, right? I mean, I think the fear, honestly, for most people existed like before you got it, that it was like, because again, I think people thought it was avoidable somehow. I don't know how people missed the endemic memo in 2020. That's weird to me, other than that people got scared and then just stopped paying attention to anything, whatever, that's some people's flight instinct. Also though, but let's dig into this. Not only how do you feel in terms of symptoms, because that's only slightly relevant to what we can deal with, but we were texting about like how did COVID make you feel sort of like emotionally or socially? Because I think that was one of the bigger things, that part of the contagion and part of the COVID is not realness is what COVID meant to people was not real. Like it was false. It was demonstrably, objectively untrue in terms of like what people thought COVID was. But I think that relates to how your emotional response, or even just like feelings or embodied feelings even too.
Well, it's really great that whenever I space out, I can just be like, I've got the COVID fog. I don't.
Yeah, I've got COVID, man. I got COVID brain, dude. So what are you going to do?
Let's make sure, I don't know if I caught that exactly, but
COVID, like how did COVID make you feel emotionally? Like did it mean
getting it?
Yeah, does it mean anything? Did you feel, have you absorbed a narrative that getting COVID means something about you? You've already talked
about okay. Yeah. No, and I definitely wanted to go there because we've talked about that quite a bit. So yeah, I actually too was just like, oh God, finally. Like if anything, it just was like, yeah, if I'm gonna get this thing, I'd rather get it. And then the is it real piece, like, you know, one of my colleagues had it earlier this year, and I mean it was brutal. Like, I mean, she was out for several weeks, lost her voice. I mean, just
Yeah.
all of it. So
Was she an unvaccinated person?
I think she was vaccinated.
Okay.
That's a good question. And just we've talked about it, but I am vaccinated with Pfizer, which is a double shot, and boosted once.
Yeah.
And for each of those, I mean, that's a funny thing. Like I had a full day of basically feeling like this each time I got vaccinated. So that there's that piece of it too, which is kind of
That
like,
is, yeah.
oh well, I guess. Oh, I know this feeling.
Yeah.
Is the cure worse than disease? I don't know. But that's a question I have for you that I'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
But emotionally, I think I've cured myself from the shame paradox that seems to be going around that we've talked about quite a bit. Where, and I know I've had friends post on Facebook when they get it. I've screenshotted those for you. Like it's confounding. I just noticed that there's this reaction of like, and it's always starts with like, I was so careful, like I did everything right.
Isn't that fascinating? As though careful has much to do with it, or right has anything to do with it. I mean, that's this is fascinating, right? This is putting a moral compass on an endemic infectious disease, which has never happened before in our lifetimes. People get the flu all the time and they're like, oh, I'm such a jerk. I got the flu. Like no one has ever said that. This is new. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to the like there was a belief that I could avoid this or that I wasn't supposed to get it thing. And
yeah.
And so I find myself, I think I'm talking to a few folks in my life who are probably a little more on that bandwagon, and I'm having to just really say pretty firmly, like, well, I think it's inevitable to get it, like for myself, but also for them in case they get it,
Yeah.
the thing that they're just kind of like, oh dang, like, and like we talked a bit about my parents, especially my mom, and I don't have kids, so I assume that there's nothing quite like the protective instincts around your children, so I don't fault that whatsoever, and especially since there is an edge case here where it could be life-threatening and
sure, yeah.
But that's true of so many things. Right?
Yes,
so,
every life is dangerous, man.
But anyway, I haven't answered exactly about how I feel. I feel, I would say, if anything, kind of a bit, yeah, like I said, it's a relief because I'm like, okay, finally, I've got it. I feel, I don't know, almost a playfulness with it or something, again, maybe just because I'm, another part of the relief is not only getting it, but getting whatever, maybe the light version of it or the normal version of it.
Yeah.
The common version of it. And, there's sadness because I am missing a few things in the quarantine, Somebody I know owns a record label and they're putting on a big festival this weekend. And I'm like, I was going to volunteer. And actually, I was going to do 2 volunteer shifts for 2 different organizations tomorrow, and that's all shut down. But that's, given all the things that have been shut down and missed for better or worse in the last few years, that seems like a pretty small price to pay.
Yeah.
But there's a funny thing there too. One of my friends, he said this so well. He was like, I think a lot of us who are maybe introverted and I mean like reclaim our energy alone or just need alone time more maybe than others, or suffer from FOMO, like make decisions to do things out of FOMO versus actually wanting to do them. Like life is just exhausting. And there was a weird permission.
For sure.
And one of my friends was like, well, I canceled everything in the lockdown. And now that we're coming back out, I'm trying to like not uncancel everything. Like,
yeah.
Did all those double negatives work? Anyway, basically,
yeah.
Like, I've lost my excuse, So there's also this weird sense, and this is a broader thing for me about just how I live my life and how I make decisions to do things. Like, I also feel relief that that I could just hang out, and maybe that's just, I've had a very busy couple months, 3 trips and all
Yeah,
sorts of
yeah.
stuff too. But there's that piece of it. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like, yeah, I think relief is the primary feeling I'm having.
Yeah. How did you, I really want to try to, if any, since you learned socially, how did you observe, or where did you ever witness an origin for the compulsion to feel shame in getting infected with COVID? I saw uh, Lisa Novahan um, post. This is a friend of mine post that she had COVID, and she was like, I mean, she almost had like tears in her eyes, kind of vibe, where she was just like struggling with these feelings of shame, and then wanting to talk about it openly. Like it was like did a post on Instagram, long paragraph of like, I'm really kind of struggling with these feelings where I feel like, okay, I'm just sick and I need to kind of just like focus on that. And like, but I'm really struggling with these feelings of shame. Like I've let people down. Like I've let my community down. I let my guard down, and I was sitting with someone and like didn't have a mask on. And
Right.
I responded to her, like, as I often do, with very, very long comments where I was just like, endemic virus, everyone's going to get it. You shouldn't, I did everything I could to dismantle her shame rationally. Masks have no relevance here. Like whether you masked or not doesn't mean anything. It's not me. That's a symbol. So like, so it's, you didn't pretend that you were trying real hard by wearing a mask. That's irrelevant. Avoidance, not going to happen. You're going to get it. So I just saw people manifest the outcome of feeling shame, but I don't know, like, again, it's the question of like, who gave you the 10 commandments, right? Like if I feel shame about lying, I can track it back to like, God said, thou shalt not lie. But I was like, who said? Like, who said you had to feel bad or feel ashamed when you got like infected with a virus that traveled around the world that infected millions of people? Like that to me, I was just like, where did that come from? And how did that invade? Like who said that? You know what I mean? It's fascinating to me. Or do these things happen again, like midichlorians? They happen as invisibly as COVID travels,
Right. There's the social virus.
Yeah,
Part of
yeah, yeah.
the shame virus. Well, I have to assume that I might have reacted differently if this had happened before we started our conversations,
Yeah.
because I think you've helped me see this whole thing more broadly. Yeah, I think there's something about the energy of the divisiveness, kind of whichever side you were on.
Yeah.
Just the fact that for the last couple of years, this has been such an extraordinary division. And
Yeah.
I also believe probably lots of other crap has been poured into this bucket. Like there's
For
lots of
sure.
other unresolved
Yes.
trauma and energy and divisiveness that is just
Yeah.
like, let's all pour it on the COVID bucket. That's a good reason to hate everybody.
Yes.
And so I think that's probably the energy of it, the nexus of this, like
Oh,
the
interesting.
nucleus.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's just whatever, and then from that, whatever side you're on, there's a sense of right and wrong of it. There's a sense of doing this thing right, like you said, like a moral judgment, or even like a scientific, like there's a right procedure to avoid this thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Well, then that's like, again, this is how I've been fascinated. And people, have long coined this phrase, calling people who are like obsessed, zero COVID people, or people like who just didn't follow the science, but followed the what experts were on CNN kind of thing. You know what I mean? Follow the experts essentially, which is not deeply scientific. It's the shallowest scientific endeavor that one could follow. They referred to those people as COVIDians or branch COVIDians. Shout out to David Koresh. And there is something very religious about it, where, especially with zero COVID, and this is this fascinating thing, religion is unavoidable for the human species, is my very strong thesis that I've yet to see debunked. Zero COVID essentially is akin to the Christian doctrine of sin. So any in the way the word of God, the Bible describes it, is that any sin means to miss the mark, to miss the bullseye. So anything that is any imperfection is most cases like moral, active, action based within your own body, outside your own body, in your own mind, etc. Any imperfection is sin. And the Bible says the wages of sin is death. That means not just like, oh, that's what happens. That's literally the money you're owed. That's your paycheck for sin, any imperfection. What happened with COVID is fascinatingly similar. And that's why I think eventually it got called like the zero COVID kind of cult of zero COVID. If you have any imperfection in your attempts to remediate this sin, the sin of this invisible thing entering your body, then you have committed a moral transgression and you have to experience shame. You have to repent. Like that's God's solution. Repent. You have to like turn away from your sin and go back the other way. So I kept seeing that when people would get sick, they were repenting. They were publicly repenting of the sin of allowing just one imperfect moment. Oh, I was weak in this one moment. But the weird thing is all it really was, even if it's team based, the most you could say is it was like, oh, you just got shot by a paintball. Essentially, it was like your paintball team against their paintball team. And you say sorry for getting shot with a paintball. But you're like, you're in a paintball fight. We're all going to get shot with paintballs. That's how the game ends. But you're like, oh, sorry, guys. Man. And you go sit down and drink a beer or whatever. I've never paintballed. So just whatever happens next. I mean, I picture it like a skiing lodge, I guess. You just go like drink a hot chocolate. But anyway, I found that fascinating. Like it's a deeply religious impulse. And I think that's, as a deeply religious person, I think that's why I was fascinated to watch this new religion form, like crystalline, especially against people I know who are like vibrantly polytheistic or professing atheists or burners, right? Who are like, whatever, man, it's all, you know what I mean? Whether you're perfect or imperfect, you're perfect just the way you are. And then it's like, it's fascinating to me that I don't even know if you can get rid of shame, is my curiosity. It's not my thesis. It's just like, that would be the thesis I'd want to test, is like, but does shame just really get chased somewhere else? Like, unless you really deal with shame, and then that's, of course, this, like the Bible's like it's a God question or whatever. But other people might be like, you have to make amends, whatever, you get 12 steps about it. But that's the fascinating thing, is like, as you say, the most shameless people I know were the most shamed during COVID for reasons I can't even remotely ascertain. They were like, there's the people who throw off sexual mores. They throw off modesty mores. They would throw off divisional, at just anything that society tells them is right or wrong. They say, you don't shut up, society. You don't get to tell me how to live. I decide for myself how to live. And then yet, when all of a sudden a danger element, all of a sudden like life and death kind of seems to quote unquote enter the picture, people ran to pick up this like absolute moral code. And again, just like sort of being perfect or whatever, like literally perfect is it's an impossible one. So it's fascinating to me, like people run to willingly embrace the demand for perfection and willingly embrace shame, even when no one told them to do it. How does that happen? It's so interesting.
Well, I mean, one thing I could associate it with is, are you swimming into the camera?
I'm just, I needed a shoulder. You know, when you're getting in touch with your body more and more, right? You know, you just move a certain way and then you're like, oh, and your body just tells you, you need to move that. So
no, I think that's one of the most, you were asking about embodied wisdom the other day. There it is.
Yeah.
That's it. Your body.
It.
Just listen to your body.
Yep. Got to listen to your body, listen to your mind. Listen, just listen. So stop talking, Brendan. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
There's the negativity bias, which I associate with our, like you said earlier, like our deep need for belonging, because we are social animals, and we need each other, and so there's so many things that the inner critic essentially is like our commander in chief, to make sure we hate ourselves enough, so we can intercept all of our horrible traits before anybody else notices, because if they notice, then we get kicked out of the tribe. And then and so I think you know, a simple version is we just throw it into that bucket and say,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, great. You know, everybody else is going to hate me for getting COVID, so I'll just hate myself first.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I wanted to ask one thing. Like, what's your current research about how, you know, because one of the reasons I was sort of grateful to get it was you know, some things I've learned from you about natural immunity
Mhm.
after getting it versus vaccination. But I also think vaccination complicates that.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating. I've been chasing it down and asking, I mean, literally asking virologists about evidences of what's okay. I mean, about evidences of hybrid immunity in the sequence you're asking about. So far, I've seen two examples, two studies so far. So that's a very small number. That is nowhere to base a, a thesis on. That's mere curiosity, typically. Just two studies, one of which was literally
Which is
like
good enough for most of the internet.
it can be. I would caution people not to do that though. There are two examples, so two studies I've seen that suggest hybrid immunity, and I'll explain that in a second, can result from infection after vaccination. One of those was literally like petri dish style. They were literally like squirting viruses into, it's a pure lab, not even people involved. The other one was like an observational trial that seemed to suggest a benefit. But the evidence is super limited. The whole term hybrid immunity essentially means, up till now, has meant being infected with COVID, therefore gaining immunity from infection, commonly referred to as natural immunity, but many people resist that term. But I think that's kind of more about a tribalistic fight than it is anything else. So feel free to ignore that fight if you encounter it. Then after being infected, later got vaccinated. Relatively consistently seems to produce the strongest immune response and that's across dozens of studies. Most of the time, it does tend towards not being statistically significant. That means the advantage is there, but it is not. It is small enough that it's not outside. It's still within the realms of chance. However, it has been produced. That result has been seen very consistently across dozens of studies. So that's certainly how I reckon it in my mind, is like, if you're infected and then vaccinated, you've basically got the best possible immunity. You've had to take the most risk because getting vaccinated is risky, and it's more risky if you've been infected previously, which is when people started getting vaccinated, I was telling everybody, get tested for antibodies. If you've already been infected, I would not recommend anybody being vaccinated if they were infected previously, because you're taking anywhere from 4 to 7 times the risk of adverse events. So don't just why you're basically like trying to get, it's very like Asian American. You're trying to get an A+. You already have an A. You have an A, dude. Just walk away. But now that, so it's speculative at this point. People have just generally been assuming, well, infection plus vaccination equals hybrid immunity. That is not the case. The dominant case is infection, then vaccination is hybrid immunity, which is the best possible thing. Natural immunity would be the next best. Vaccination and would be under that. Adenovirus, I'd say adenovirus vaccination is probably better under that. And then mRNA, or those could even flip flop. But then in terms of the cost benefit analysis, if we're talking pure immunity, I think mRNAs are better. And then innate immunity is in there somewhere. And I guess we don't really know enough about it, but that's probably the best of all. It's just to never be infected, because then you're straight up impervious. You're bulletproof by nature. So I don't know. And the hard thing is so we're going to know more about it, I think, in the next 3 to 6 months, although we might not, because I don't think it's going to go well in terms of, I don't think hybrid immunity is going to be produced consistently by being infected after being vaccinated, because so far we're seeing a lot of multiple infections, especially with Omicron, in vaccinated people. And natural immunity, there's just a study in the New England Journal of Medicine like last week out of Qatar. Those guys are dominant. They dominate Israel and Qatar. I don't know what it is about the Middle East, but those people, like, they pump out like pretty high quality, massive studies. I guess because they control it's a little more they control their population more than perhaps we do in the West. Anyway, that natural immunity is protecting more in Omicron as well. For a while, that was a question. A lot of newspapers or whatever, AP, Reuters, CNN, made it sound like Omicron's just leapfrogging all immunity. I was like, well, okay, it is, but again, once again, natural immunity is still stronger. So that was the hope, was that no matter when you get infected, it's going to double up and be like a superhero team up. But it hasn't really consistently been that yet. So you could get COVID now, and this could help, or you could get COVID another 4 times. But at this point, your immune system has been trained previously. Oh, and then the big problem is with vaccination. If that was the first time you had a COVID response, essentially a COVID immune response, with both ADE, which is antibody dependent enhancement, basically your system can kind of sort of react or poorly react or overreact to infection if the vaccines kind of train your body improperly, is a really loose way of describing ADE. And OAS, or original antigenic sin, is when the first response your body has to a particular infection it gets locked in. So it's the only thing you'll ever learn. I compared it to Karate Kid. So I was like, it's if you learned wax on, wax off, and Mr. Miyagi, the vaccine trained you to do wax on, wax off, then you can block that style of attack like no problem. You can block those like front punches or front kicks or whatever. But if the attacks change, your body can't stop doing wax on, wax off. So you're getting kicked in the legs, kicked in the balls, et cetera, et cetera. So OAS and that can happen with natural infection too. It just seems to have happened more prevalently with vaccination, or at least that's the speculation as to why we're seeing such high rates of infection amongst vaccinated people, with Omicron even more so than people who have never been infected. Who are those people? And or are vaccinated. So who really knows? I mean, by the fact that you're vaccinated, as long as Omicron's around, you're more likely to be infected more often. But as I feel like in general, as long as you don't lock into one of those bad responses, which not everybody does, it's just, again, this is a increased statistical tendency, then your body's fighting it pretty well right now. So one would hope that your body fights it at least this well next time,
So I'll probably have to go back and listen to all of that. So why am I more likely to get infected because I'm vaccinated?
I don't think anyone really knows. And I would be purely speculating as to why that's occurring. It's just been happening since January, since Omicron came around. So Omicron, as near as I understand it, not being a virologist, but especially mRNA vaccines specifically use the spike protein, which, as best as I understand, is like, think of it as like a sticky arm, the sticky arm tentacle that reaches out and grabs kind of hold of you and then starts doing all its mischievous magic. That's like a childish version of what's happening, but essentially it's kind of the adherent element. That's that spike protein was used in mRNA vaccines in order to sort of provoke a defense against that, specifically with the alpha variant of SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that produces the infection that is COVID-19. The Omicron variant is a variant of this coronavirus that evolved or devolved, or I don't know how viruses work. Let's say for sake of whatever, just swiftness, it evolved the spike protein. So it is evasive of natural immunity. Again, natural immunity is more protective, but it's evasive of natural immunity. So it's already like a craftier variant that can kind of get around prior immune responses. But it's especially effective at evading vaccinated immunity, because the spike protein is kind of the sticky arm, is the key element of how the mRNA designed its immune response. So it designed, let's say, think of it in a silly way. Okay, the sticky arm goes out, and the vaccine taught your body how to go, Kia, and chop the sticky arm, right? And it to chop at a particular velocity. I don't know why I always use karate metaphors, but so let's say Omicron comes along and their sticky arm is super flexible. So the sticky arm goes out, but it's like a little wily tentacle. And so you chop it at the same velocity and it just goes and
Like hot dog fingers.
Yeah, hot dog fingers, exactly. So since it does that, you being vaccinated have a sort of more spiked protein centric immune response built into your system. That's the fight that your body has been taught. Whereas if you have a naive immune system that has never been infected, your body will attack the spike protein. And if that doesn't work, it'll also attack a whole bunch of things. But your body already knows. Again, this is the whole thing when vaccines train your body how to fight the virus. If they train them for the wrong enemy, then that can actually be more harmful. So that's my best understanding of why, as a vaccinated person with this particular variant, you would be more likely to be infected. You're not going to be more likely to encounter it. That's the same risk for anybody engaging in social behavior, but that's why yours would be slightly more likely, theoretically, to turn into COVID-19 as opposed to just the virus coming in, your nose hairs catching it, your mucosal immunity in your nose. This is why they've talked about nose vaccines as something that's in development. You're literally like the mucosal lining in your nose can destroy the virus before you ever really technically becomes like a genuine infection.
Superpower, it's not.
Yeah, isn't that neat? That's why you go up the nose for the tests or whatever. Like this is why this is fascinating. No one talked about this. Like trimming your nose hairs can actually would be a bad thing in a viral pandemic because your nose hairs are literally part of your defense system against particulate matter. So those old men, or even myself, when I don't buzz them, like with the nose hairs coming out, those guys, they're super protected. It's like the what's the word, the barbed wire fence. It's like a barbed wire fence trying to keep viruses out. Anyway, I know it's silly, but I think it's kind of fascinating. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. From my best understanding as an autodidact in this entire realm.
As an actor.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate how deep you dig and that you caveat that with not being a virologist.
No, and they're wrong too. You know what I mean? That's the fun part. I only know any of this from reading the science. I'm not an expert, so my opinion doesn't count as scientific evidence. But the evidence I'm talking about is more relevant scientific evidence than the opinion of an expert. This is the fun pattern.
Right. But I think you're attracted to, for whatever reason, and good at consuming vast amounts of data and research and synthesizing it and somehow relaying it.
Yeah, I'm an actor. I mean, it's literally what an actor does. Reads a ton of stuff, figures out a way to synthesize it and communicate it.
There you go.
That's my jam, yo.
It is the core skill.
It is.
I feel like we probably need to come in for a landing. It's funny, there were a couple of things I wanted to mention, and maybe this could start a new tradition where we offer each other appreciations on the way out.
Yeah.
But was there anything else you wanted to cover? Any other burning topics?
No, it's just fascinating. And I would love to, I haven't, I think, made a direct viewer reach out, but, or listener reach out. Anybody who's listening or watching, I would love to hear about your experiences with getting COVID and how this is to me the most fascinating element, which is, and how you felt, not just the symptoms, sure, if you want to tell me, that's fine, but how you felt about yourself. Did you feel shame? And then because I think, listen, you know more about this, Andy, I would assume, but when you feel shame, well, actually, no, we probably know similar amounts about it. We probably just actually have different cool paradigms on how to deal with it. You experience shame. What do you do with it? I think one of the best things to do with shame, or really anything, track the origin. Find out where did this come from? Why am I feeling shame? I think shame is great. I think we should be I think shame and honor cultures. I've been obsessed with them since I was a little kid. When I was little, I wanted to be Japanese. That's a dominant shame and honor culture. I think in many ways, it's really practical and really helpful. And it leads towards very conscientious individuals to a detrimental degree, right? Because it can lead to high suicide rates. So whatever, there's lots of malfunction with that, but it's to track the origin of shame. So if, for example, in COVID, I want to know who, like, if you felt that shame experience, and if you hadn't practiced it then, it's a good opportunity to practice now. And I want to hear about your journey of tracking the source of it. Why do I feel ashamed for this? As we do with anything, if you feel shame, examine it. All right, why do I feel shame? And then if literally you're feeling shame for no good reason, that's a delightful thing to discover, because then at least you're on your way to just releasing that altogether. You know what I mean? If I feel shame because I'm sticking my finger in Andy's eye and it's hurting him and he's crying and asking me to stop, you know what I mean? I've tracked the source to my finger in his eye, and then I should stop, and I should probably apologize. You know what I mean? That I'm making it real simple right then. But a lot of times I think we experience waylaid shame, and I think COVID's a good example of it. So that's the last sort of caveat I want to throw out, is I'd love to hear people's stories and how you reason through it, because the way I will approach it would be different than how Andy would kind of deal with shame, how I deal with shame, how other people deal with shame. But I think it's something we as a culture need to just really look at very plainly, and kind of look at the binary. Like, is this shame good? Yes or no? No. It's like, there used to be a game when I was a little kid. There was, yes, this is how old I am. There was a computer game where you would just sort things. They would come down a thing, and you would press the button to go in this sorting or this sorting. And so often it started with 2 and then it would turn into more or whatever. But at first you just be like, does it go in this bin? Does it go in that bin? Is it a good egg? Is it a bad egg? And I think that's the kind of process that I'm, at least for old heads. Now you know what I'm talking about. I want to hear about your process of dealing with shame.
Yeah. So these are kind of loop backs / appreciations to 2 things we brought up in this episode. One is I would like to offer you gratitude for introducing me to Burning Man in 2008.
I received that.
This was my 8th burn, and I ended up going to the big one for 3 years also, and then switched to regionals. But it's really a beautiful, magical, playful part of my life. Often ends up being an emotional experiment of some kind.
Yeah.
Tends to exaggerate things that are going on, I think, in a healthy way. So thank you for that. And I felt kind of like the elder burner here with my 2 friends. One had been to 1 burn and some BR burns, but the other was new. And I found myself telling a lot of stories from 2008. That was just a really magical experience.
Oh, cool. I love that. I love to hear that. I mean, that's the goal, isn't it? Is to create stories that you can pass on. I mean, I'm a writer, obviously, and a creator, so that's literally what I do. But I think that's what we all do. We might not ever, we have, you can have a stoic dad who just worked every day, but he was literally writing a story for you in front of you, saying nothing. And that's the story he wanted to pass on. It was when in doubt, just work real hard and then bring home what you make and give it to the people you love. That's all we're doing. We're trying, or hopefully, and then those can be bad stories too. You know what I mean? You're the story I'm telling is, any woman I want, I take her, whatever, but we're constantly writing those stories and passing them on. And I like to invent stories. So it's nice to hear of stories that are based in real life that yield fruit. I constantly think about sharing my stories and how many people see them or how many people read them, So to look at it in life, I think is a helpful thing. I often look at metaphors as real and real as metaphor. And so it's nice to look at them all synthesized. So I deeply appreciate that. And I'm gonna your appreciation. And I'm gonna return the appreciation.
Another one.
Oh, you have 2. Dang it, I only have 1.
This long to think of another one. This long. I don't know. That's
yeah. Too long. I'm this many. I'm this many. How old are you?
Isn't that how
this many?
That's how kids measure everything.
Yep, on your fingers.
This many.
Yeah.
The other, this is a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
Is that Brendan had press screening tickets to the advanced screening of the Phantom Menace a week before it came out. in like 1997 or something. And
yeah, 9, 8, 9. I don't know when that is.
I don't know, whatever it was.
I don't know.
And this was a big deal because we talked about what we rolled into our dorm room with. We both had like the Star Wars like video cassettes.
Yes.
Brendan had the fancy widescreen one. And,
yeah, baby. THX.
Yeah. And yeah, Brendan was doing a lot with writing reviews for a magazine, and so he had these tickets, and I was just so blessed that I got one of them. And then, most people were pretty disappointed with that movie, and so it was, I don't know. I don't think I hated it quite as much as a lot of other people, but my nostalgia can also overcome lots of other technical challenges.
Yeah, just being glad to be in the world again.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't know. Later, I heard that if you really put the ones we grew up with under scrutiny, like were they really the best movies, or were they just the ones like with the kids who grew up with the prequels,
Yes.
Did they love them as much as we love, ours? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, my appreciation is that you chose me, and I got to see the Phantom Menace a week early.
That felt very special and awesome. That was like a big screening too. Is that like it wasn't Navy Pier. Anyway, it was like a big screening, like a big huge screen, that sort of thing, which didn't really happen very often for press screenings. A lot of times is rent smaller theaters or whatever. But I think they realized every single critic who they would send that ticket to would be like, I'm going to be there, and everyone would definitely bring a friend, and carefully choose that friend, because it was like that was one of the more highly anticipated movies I think I've ever seen in my life.
And I think Gene and Siskel were there. So
I think Siskel might have been dead by then. Roger Ebert, I think, was still alive. I was critiquing in Chicago. Maybe Siskel was still alive. I don't know. I was critiquing.
We went to another movie, and they were both there.
They were both there. Yeah, I know. It felt very like, oh, we're in the big leagues now, hanging out with the big boys. I would like to. I only have one, Andy. I didn't know there was going to be an appreciation thing, so I'm being improvisational about that. But speaking of, this is partially something we spoke about on the air. That also is something I've been texting about in terms of the way you've been talking about embodied wisdom, or just embodied anything. And this is something you've activated the, what is it, Dunning-Kruger effect, blue car syndrome, or whatever it's called, blue car effect, by highlighting. It's like when you get a new Lexus or something. I've never had a Lexus, but whatever. Someone buys a Lexus, and then you start seeing Lexuses everywhere. You're like, oh. And so by you talking about embodied, especially as you've talked about it from a different angle, I know a lot of people talking about embodied things, but it's really coming more from the fitness, that element, fitness, wellness space, and then having to like listen to your body in order to like continue to grow your kinesthetic relationship and blah, 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 whatever. But you've been talking about it even more so of how it manifests in society, cellular tensions, oppressions, privileges, et cetera, et cetera. And so it is, you have made me, my appreciation for you is that you have made me much more aware of my own body. And actually once you dig into it, you didn't warn me of how wildly complicated information that comes from our body is. And that it's like your body can tell you exactly, your body, like much like I've realized, like reason or emotions or whatever, can tell you a bunch of information, some of which is really accurate, and some of which is like misinformed by things that have happened previously, or my body has all sorts of cravings. And then when I give it my body's like, yay, good for you. And then I feel terrible later. So it's like, wait, which part, when do I listen to my body? When is my body giving me good information, giving me bad information? And then especially it's been helping me deal with tension in my life. This is the most appreciative part of it. It's just made me more like paying attention to where my body is. And I've learned this as an actor, but I don't always apply it in my real life. I'm like, that's work business. But seeing really how my character and disposition is revealed by what's going on here in this is me slapping my body in here, has been immensely helpful in resolving conflict situations with like my wife and my children. So if I'm accused of something, if someone's like, oh, you're being this way, you're being defensive. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Maybe intellectually I'm I think that I'm not, or maybe intellectually I'm not because I'm just engaging in the field of battle that I enjoy. But a lot of times, as I've been like, okay, well, let me check in on the Andy thing. Let me check in on in the embodied aspect. Where are my shoulders at? Oh, hold on a second. That's tell. It's a tell, man. It's like a poker tell, and I'm poker telling on myself. The way my shoulders are, my chin is up a little bit, a little obstinate. And I was like, oh no, I'm coming at this is. I've taken something out of a neutral grappling situation into an aggressive situation with someone I love, and I don't want to be aggressive with. So yeah, that has been a healing and helpful awareness that I continue to grow in thanks to your provocation.
Thank you for sharing.
Heck yeah, thank you for sharing.
I think it was in college actually. I learned that phenomenon to be known as selective perception.
Mm-hmm. Yep, which makes a lot of sense. You can't perceive everything. This is like the exclusivity thing you were talking about. You have to selectively perceive things, or else I think basically you just go crazy because you'd be perceiving everything all at once, you know?
Yeah, this is I was very grateful when I heard this definition of bias. It's basically bias. It's like we're exposed to like thousands of times more information than we could possibly absorb.
Yeah.
Somebody, I don't know how exactly they did this, but they like quantified the bit rate of our brain, the data rate, which the computers we're creating now are like so vastly beyond that. Now they don't have like the reasoning.
Yes,
you know, that's the thing.
They don't have this. They don't have the proper selection bias.
but the ability to process vast amounts of information is there. Anyway, I wandered away from your beautiful appreciations.
No, but it's all related. And I'm glad I'm related to you in this lifetime. So heal well.
Thank you. This I'm glad we did this. This felt like maybe a piece of the healing.
Well, I like that.
Well, be well. Send my love to the princesses and the queen. And until next time, my friend. I love you.
Love you too.